Chromoly pegs have been the tried and true for years. Then in the early to mid 2000s, along came plastic and completely changed the game. But with all the different types of materials out there, from nylons to polycarbonate blends and secret proprietary formulas, how do you know what's best? That's what we're gonna find out in today's video. It's about to get sciencey up in here.
Science.
Welcome back, YouTube. I come to you today in this oversized lab coat with 5 of our best-selling pegs in front of me here. And while I have 5 on the table, it actually represents more like 9 different pegs. So let me explain. So first up, we have the Colt Butter. This represents the Butter and the Butter Light. It's the same outer sleeve, just a different core. See what we're getting at here? Colt uses a Perlin or Perlon 6 outer sleeve, which from my reading is a type of patented nylon material, and it's supposed to be pretty durable. We shall see. From there, we have the Odyssey joystick pegs and their version of a nylon composite sleeve. Next is the Stolen Silencer peg with their proprietary Thermalite material. It's supposed to resist cracking and deformation. This Thermalite sleeve is also used on the Fiction Troop peg and the Stolen Night Stalker peg, so 3-in-1 on that one. Then we have the Fit Sleeper peg, which Fit says is their own proprietary material. I'm assuming some sort of special nylon polycarbonate blend. And finally, we have the Shadow Slider Die Featherweight pegs, which are very similar to the welterweight slider die pegs. Same outer sleeve, just a different core. Shadow advertises these as having a nylon composite outer sleeve that, again, is built for durability. So, pretty vague, right? And there's likely a good reason for this. Particular blends and types of materials are going to slide and wear differently. The secret is trying to find that perfect balance, and most companies are just not going to share their secrets. But the real question is, how do these pegs perform in real-life situations? Let's step into my office. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me all right. I apologize for any wind noise, but in front of me is the rail test. I have 2 Subrosa street rails combined to be 16 foot long. On the second rail, each foot is marked for measuring distance. Now I have removed all wax from the rail to get as consistent of results as possible. I'll be dropping in from the same ramp each time to keep the speed consistent, and the rails have been marked on the ground just in case they move. Now the plan was I was gonna drop in on the 5 foot, but even with the rail all the way on the other side of the skate park, I was able to clear the full 16 feet, no problem. Same thing, dropping in on the 3 foot and the rail, again, other side of the skate park, I was able to clear the rail, no problem. So dropping in on this pyramid here, I'm able to get to the second rail and to where I'm almost stopped, which is what we want, clear and consistent results. At least that's on my personal bike here. We're gonna do everything on the test bike. From the testing that I've done so far, this is gonna be the best scenario. Now for each pair of pegs, I'm gonna grind the rail 10 times total, but take the average distance of the top 5. And I'm gonna hang on for as long as I possibly can. I might fall to the side or whatever. That doesn't matter. We're just trying to get as far as we possibly can. First up, Colt Butter pegs. This is gonna suck to do each time. All in the name of science, right? All right, first up, Colt Butter pegs. Get set up here. Okay, that wasn't a very good run, but immediately I could tell that these slide better than my older volume pegs. Like immediately, very noticeable difference. All right, first one in the books. Now on to the next. Okay, next up, Odyssey joystick. Okay, so initial impressions of the joystick pegs, they're very similar to the butter pegs. And I'm curious when I get back and I'm able to look at the results, how much farther these went compared to the butter pegs. Because I mean, man, some of those were really close to the length of how far I slid on the butter peg. So let's get back to it. All right, next up are the stolen silencer pegs. I have a feeling I know how these are gonna grind, but we shall see. Okay, initial impressions. They didn't feel like they didn't slide quite as well, but I mean, you're splitting hairs at that point. For me, just grinding it and trying to judge it based on how far I'm going, feels like they slide a little slower. It's gonna be hard to tell. Definitely gonna have to look at the footage on that one. Okay, so next up is the Fit Sleeper Peg, which already, one thing I do like about these, see if I can get it in focus there. They're putting knurling on the back of these, which if you run plastic pegs and plastic guards, your wheel will sometimes shift in the dropout. And yeah, that's a good touch. Good job, Fit. I don't think I mentioned it either, but I am rotating the guard each time to again stay as consistent as possible. Okay, Fit Sleeper Peg, test one. Oh, dang. You try to stay on as long as you possibly can, but sometimes you're just off. That's why we're doing the average of the 5 longest ones. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have the Shadow Slider die pegs. Obviously with the aluminum core, they are extremely lightweight compared to the others. SOD, let's see how they do.
That's terrible.
So, interesting results there because I cannot figure out a discernible winner just from that test. Definitely gonna have to go back and review the footage on that one. I will say that even though, again, this is not the wear test, there were some clear winners when it came to wear alone, which again, we'll review that later on in the video. Now I am jumping on the rail the same spot each and every time, but keep in mind, there are some factors I just have no control over. Things like tire drag or hub guard drag, just things like that. As hard as you try, you cannot control those factors there. Now with the rail test out of the way, let's head over to the ledge to check out that durability test. All right, so here we are at our ledge test. This ledge has been ridden pretty hard over the years and should be a good representation of what you come across just out street riding. Now for this first test, I've got a starting point of where I'm gonna jump on and an exit point of where I'm gonna pull off. Also off camera is a starting point to where I've got it consistently where I can get a full crank and a quarter before I jump onto the ledge. So if you'll see me on camera later, I'll do a full crank, 1, and then quarter down, and then back up even. That way, again, keeping the speed as consistent as possible through each and every one. Now this first test is gonna be a feeble grind test. So again, marked distance, feeble grind 10 times on each peg. From there, we'll move on to the next test. I think that's it. Let's get started. It's gonna be a lot of grinding today. All right, so back to our starting order, we have the Colt butter pegs. See how they do.
Prepare to fast forward!
Preparing to fast forward.
Fast forward!
Fast forwarding, sir. Try here. Stop.
All right, so that's the feeble grind ledge test. Interesting results so far. Just looking at it, It looks like some of the pegs are definitely wearing faster than the others, so it's going to be interesting when we put the calipers on them to see how far they've actually worn down. Now going back to our rail test, what I'm going to do is actually combine both tests together. So on this ledge, I'm going to throw both sets of pegs on and do a double peg grind down this rough concrete ledge as far as it can possibly go, just to see how well each peg grinds. Now my hope is that doing a double peg on the ledge here is going to just remove one more variable. Again, we've got to deal with tire drag and hub guard drag and all that, but there's less chance of me having to counterbalance and just possibly slowing myself down. In theory, it should give us even more consistent results. So I'm running out of time today, so we're going to pick back up tomorrow. All right, back again, this time with our double peg test. Same as before, I've got a set location I'm gonna start off with. That way we can keep the same speed each and every time. Also have the ledge marked off in feet. And I'm curious how these results are gonna compare to our rail test results. By now, you guys know the drill, so let's get to it. And as an extra note, I'm gonna rotate the pegs again to a clean surface. That way we can compare the results back to back. Now again, I am gonna start off with the Shadow Little Ones chromoly pegs, just to see how it compares back to back against the plastic pegs. All right, not gonna lie, I kind of expected it to go a little farther than that, especially since it's downhill, but we'll see how it holds up against the plastic pegs. As before, I'm gonna do 10 double peg grinds and take the average of the top 5. Okay, so there was 10 with the Colt butter pegs, and I want to make a note of something because as you can see, I'm just kind of grinding until I'm pretty much out of speed and just falling off. I'm not trying to stay on the ledge as far as, I'm not trying to land it, I guess I should say, because to do that, you have to counterbalance. And if you're counterbalancing even on a ledge like this, you're kind of putting your pedal down into the grind surface. You may not notice it, but especially with these metal pins on the pedals here, I can feel it. And I don't want to do that. I want it to be just the peg and only the peg. I don't want the pedal to slow me down or anything like that. If I'm balanced, perfectly balanced to the end where I can stay on, great. If not, as far as I can possibly go. Regardless, a result is a result. So I wanted to show you guys something real quick. That chalk mark is just for my reference, so I know what test it was. Look at this, 10 grinds. Again, it's an unwaxed concrete ledge, so probably one of the worst surfaces you can grind with on a plastic peg, but it's already touching the metal core there. That's interesting. Wonder how the other pegs are gonna hold up. All right, peg swapped out to the Odyssey joystick. Let's see how they do. All right, next up we have the stolen silencer pegs. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out. Hopefully in the future we can do more comparison tests like this. Let me know in the comment section what you would like to see. So yeah, enough talking, let's get back to it. Okay, 10 on the stolen silencers. Now we switch over to the Fit Sleeper. How to think about that? So quick note, because I know somebody's gonna comment about this. So as you can see, as we get near the end of the ledge, there's the final mark right there. It looks like on video the tire is touching the ground, but as you can see, there's plenty of clearance there, especially on the front wheel there. Just wanted to point that out because I know on video it looks like it's touching. Now, even if I lean the bike over farther and farther, still not touching. And right there, the pegs are starting to slide off. Wish I had a taller ledge to test on, but hey, a result is a result, right? As long as your tire is not touching. All right, final pair of pegs. Shadow SOD. Oh. Oh, geez. Okay, so interesting point on the shadow pegs. I'm actually gonna redo this test. The reason being, I felt like I was actually able to go further with these pegs compared to some of the others. And I was getting to the point where I was gonna start falling into the camera. So what I'm gonna do is, again, rotate the peg to a fresh spot so it's all clean, brand new surface, and move the camera back and test it again, because some of those, it really felt like I could go a bit farther. So we'll see. Take two. All right, that ends our double peg ledge test. Hopefully you guys didn't feel like I was trying to give the SOD peg some sort of unfair advantage by going twice. On the contrary, I was trying to give them as fair an opportunity as possible, because like I said, doing that first test, it seemed like I was able to go a little bit further, but I was getting ready to fall into the camera. Sure enough, on the second test, I pushed the camera back, and at least to me, it seemed like I was able to go a little bit further. So I don't know, we'll have to look at the results and see. So that ends the testing portion of our peg comparison. Now the real fun begins, he says sarcastically, because I have to sift through all this video footage and lay out the results for you guys. Lucky for you, it's only gonna take a second. I'll see you guys back at the table. Ah yes, the moment we've all been waiting for. So I've crunched the numbers and found some not so surprising and some very surprising results. So let's dive right in, because there's a lot of good information to cover. Let's start with the rail test, which I really thought would be a lot easier, seeing as I ride pegs all the time, but when you're trying to do a test like this and specifically not trying to balance, it gets hard to hang on. Interestingly enough, after watching some of the video footage, some of the best grinds that I had where I'm perfectly balanced on the rail and slid to a complete stop were in fact some of the shortest grinds recorded. Not all of them, some I just wasn't locked in on, but it was enough that I took notice. And again, I sound like a broken record here, but this all has to do with tire drag, hubguard drag, and just additional friction that you're inadvertently adding by the motion of you balancing on that ledge, rail, or whatever you're sliding. Turns out it's hard to fight that natural instinct to balance when you've just been doing it for so long. But I did my best to just grind the rail and just ride it all the way through with minimal interference. So coming in first place with the best average grind distance on the rail is the Colt Butter Pegs, followed very closely behind by the Fit Sleeper, which is funny because during testing, honestly couldn't feel much of a difference between those two anyway. Then we have the Odyssey Joystick Pegs, followed by the Shadow Slider Die, and finally in last place is the Stolen Silencer Pegs, which, as I mentioned during testing, these definitely felt slower than everything else on the table, and sure enough, the numbers don't lie on that. But don't worry, the Stolen Pegs are not out of the race just yet. Again, these averages were the best 5 out of 10 grinds, but because of the variables I mentioned earlier, I went ahead and took the average of the top 2 grinds and crunched those numbers as well.
I would like you to crunch those numbers again.
Crunch.
There we see the Fit Sleeper moves up from second to first place. The Slider Die moves up to second place, followed very closely behind by the Colt Butter, then the Odyssey Joystick, and again, last place, the Stolen Silencer. These results ended up being so close that I would almost consider them to be really within a margin of error. We're talking roughly a half a foot distance between the first and fourth place finishers, whereas the Stolen Pegs were consistently about a foot or so shorter compared to the rest. However, the results changed quite a bit during our ledge testing. First up was the feeble grind test, where each peg went through 10 grinds at a set distance. I then measured the peg sleeve thickness and then subtracted how much it had worn down. The peg with the most wear was actually the Shadow Slider Die, having worn down by 47.3%, followed by the Colt Butter at 46.6%, the Odyssey Joystick at 30%, the Fit Sleeper 29.2%, and then the Stolen Silencer was now up top, having only worn down by 26.6%. And you can visually see this as well. The silencer sleeves are just noticeably less worn compared to everything else on the table. And that leads us to our final test, where I combined everything together, doing 10 double peg grinds on the ledge and also measuring for wear. And these results were not what I expected. The Colt butter pegs went from one of the best rail performers to coming in dead last on the ledge test by a considerable margin. The joystick and sleeper pegs fell right in the middle and both performed pretty similar. And then followed by the stolen silencer with an impressive second place finish, huge bump up from the rail test. And then the Shadow slider die coming in first place, smoking them all by a good 2 feet or more. And when we compare the wear results from this test compared to our feeble grind test, we find that each peg placed in nearly the exact same order as before, except this time the Colt butter and the Shadow SOD both tied for last place, having worn through to the core. The Odyssey joystick came in third by having worn down by 65%, the Fit Sleeper came in second with 53.6%, and the stolen silencers, man, proving once again how durable that Thermalite material is, having only worn down by 38.3%. Huge difference there. Guys, I hate this video. I hate this video because at this point, I thought I'd be able to tell you, okay, this peg came in first and this peg came in second and so forth. But honestly, at this point, I just can't. Which actually makes me kind of love this video. I love this video because I truly did not expect some of these results, and it highlights how each peg really has their own characteristics. Take the SOD pegs, for example. They did average on the rail test, dead last on the wear test, but absolutely crushed everyone else on the ledge grind test. Then you have the stolen silencer pegs, which were grinding pretty slow compared to everything else on the rail, but they did second on the ledge grind test and absolutely blew everyone out of the water when it comes to wear. This was actually really cool to see because a coworker and I both used to run these pegs years ago, and it's something that we noticed back then. So it was nice to see that our suspicions were confirmed, although I don't remember how they did on ledges back then, but apparently well enough. So each peg ended up having both strengths and weaknesses, but overall it really comes down to, what do you grind most? Metal rails or concrete ledges? And what are you more interested in, longevity of the sleeve or faster grinding? It also pushes home just how far the plastic peg market has come over the years. While early PC pegs were honestly kind of junk and experimental, the industry has dialed in their formulas to where you really can't go wrong with any of them. And regardless, in most cases, a plastic peg is going to grind smoother and faster than a chromoly peg, especially if you add wax. Just make sure you rotate these from time to time, because even with a Thermalite outer sleeve, it's not outlasting chromoly. So what do you all think? Were the results what you expected? Because some of these for sure surprised me. And if you have any other suggestions for other future comparison videos, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm kind of curious how, if adding wax will actually affect these results or not. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's a future part 2 there. I don't know. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all the YouTube things. It really does help out. We'll see everybody in the next video. Bill Nye who?